Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Mona Kosar-Abdi. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, 95-year-old former President Jimmy Carter is in the hospital for brain surgery today.
The goal is to relieve pressure on his brain, which was caused by bleeding after his recent falls. Carter has fallen at least twice in the last 5 weeks. Number 2, the weather. Snow, freezing rain, and bone-chilling cold is spreading across several states.
Current radar shows a line of storms stretching from Texas to Maine with 65 million Americans in the path. Some areas are bracing for temperatures dropping to near zero.
And the freeze will extend into the south. It will eventually feel like 25 degrees as far south as Houston.
On to number 3. President Trump says this week he will release a transcript of his first phone call with Ukraine's president, detailing a conversation months before the call that triggered the impeachment investigation.
He describes the call transcript as tantalizing and has declared himself the most transparent president in history. Meanwhile, as Democrats prepare to begin public impeachment hearings tomorrow, they've released a new batch of transcripts from closed-door testimony.
A Pentagon official testified that aides were confused by the hold placed on military aid to Ukraine, and a State Department official said there was concern that U.S. policy would be shifted to accommodate domestic politics.
We head to Florida for number 4, where a police officer from Oklahoma is in custody charged with murdering his boss.
Police Chief Lucky Miller from Manford, Oklahoma, was found dead in a Pensacola Beach hotel room. Investigators say the chief and one of his officers, Michael Neely, got into a fight and Miller died from his injuries.
The two were in Florida for a conference. Neely is being held without bond.
And finally, number 5. If you're preparing to host Thanksgiving this year, a new survey ranks the biggest mistakes made at Thanksgiving dinner.
Number 1 is not all of the cooking is done on time or at the same time. I know all about that one. Ran out of wine was the 3rd biggest problem, followed by a spilt dish and forgetting an essential ingredient.
Can't forget the salt or the cheese and mac and cheese. Cold food or lack of food also made the list, forgetting someone's food allergy. And of course, burning the turkey.
You can't do these things. Don't burn the turkey. Or the ham.
That's like you had one job.
Where's the cranberry sauce? Everyone loves cranberry sauce. I don't believe that study. Good morning, everyone. Great to have Mona Kosar-Abdi back. How's your neck doing?
My neck.
You had to deal with Trevor Ault yesterday.
Oh my gosh! And the whole time I was
looking up at that dude.
I had to have him sit all the time.
He's like, just sit down so I can look you in the eye.
Make eye contact with you.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, glad you're back here for This Morning America.
Thanks. And you, welcome back.
Thank you.
South Kakalaki?
Oh, down south was great.
Was it South Carolina?
It was not South Carolina, but...
Oh. You know, everything under
south.
Virginia is South Carolina to me.
Just like, weren't you just down there somewhere, South Carolina? Yeah, because I do.
Same thing.
I tend to talk about South Carolina a little bit. So I'm from there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get right to that big story overnight. Former President Jimmy Carter is now back in the hospital. He's suffering from pressure on his brain. ABC's Elizabeth Herr is here with the latest this morning. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Mona, good morning. Yes, another health scare for former President Jimmy Carter has him waking up in the hospital for surgery scheduled for later this morning, with his family now asking for prayers. Former President Jimmy Carter back in the hospital, this time for brain surgery. The Carter Center confirming the 95-year-old is at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta for the procedure to relieve pressure on his brain. ABC News learning the swelling in his brain is due to multiple falls. He fell back in May, breaking a hip, then he fell twice last month.
I fell down and hit my forehead on a sharp edge and had to go to the hospital.
Carter seen here following his fall in early October. The Atlanta Braves hat covering his 14 stitches and a black eye. Another fall just weeks later left Carter with a minor pelvic fracture. But despite his health issues in recent years, including brain cancer in 2015, the former president never slowed down. Showing his support here for one of his favorite causes, a Habitat for Humanity event in Nashville, and teaching Sunday school as recently as last week. Then earlier this month, the longest living U.S. president made headlines, revealing he was at ease with death after his bout with cancer in 2015.
So I assumed naturally that I was going to die very quickly. And I obviously prayed about it. I didn't ask God to let me live. And I found that I was absolutely and completely at ease with death.
Well, Carter went on to say his only concern about dying was missing his family. Well, right now, he is said to be resting comfortably with his wife, Rosalind, by his side. Mona?
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. Appreciate it. Well, the widow of Elijah Cummings hopes to succeed him in Congress. Maya Rocky Moore Cummings tells the Baltimore Sun that she is the best choice to carry out his legacy. Elijah Cummings died last month at the age of 68. His widow is a public policy consultant who ran for Maryland governor last year. Her consulting areas include health and education policy.
And there may be another latecomer in the race for the White House. Sources say former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick could announce his bid this week ahead of the filing deadline in New Hampshire. Patrick is a close friend of former President Obama. He ruled out a presidential run earlier this year, but he reportedly doesn't think the other candidates have gained the necessary political momentum. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg is also considering entering the race.
And protesters are gathering outside the Supreme Court as the justices prepare to hear arguments today on the fate of DACA. That's the Obama-era program protecting hundreds of thousands of young immigrants known as Dreamers.
President Trump has been trying to shut down the program since 2017, but for many Dreamers, we know that they're fearing deportation, and the U.S. is the only home they know. ABC's Brad Milkey has the details.
Yeah, that's right. You know, a lot of people had forgotten about DACA. It was 2 years ago that the Trump administration tried to roll it back. Well, the courts have kept it intact, and now today it will finally go in front of the Supreme Court. Under President Obama's executive order, young undocumented immigrants have been able to apply to stay in the U.S. The Trump administration said, we're canceling this. So far, courts have said that reasoning is not good enough. But it's unclear whether these justices will agree. And to give you a sense of how fired up so-called Dreamers are about this, one group marched more than 200 miles to D.C. to see these arguments on foot. And in fact, this morning, a line has formed around the court, people hoping to get in. I actually spoke to one young man, a 21-year-old DACA recipient, a congressional intern named Juan Hinojos. I asked him what he's seeing.
It's about 70 people who have been here for the past 2 nights. We've just been outside bearing the cold at night and just keeping warm, creating community, sharing food, just sharing our stories with each other.
Wait, so you've been there for 2 full nights?
Yeah, so it just happened to be that one of the most historic cases that affects me directly is going to be while I'm out here. So I said, you know, this is history in the making and I want to be here for it.
And get this, you guys, one of the lawyers who will be arguing this case in court is a 31-year-old DACA recipient himself, as in, he is one of the people who could potentially be deported if he loses this case. We'll have a lot more on Start Here later this morning. Listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. Kenneth, Mona?
Big thanks to Brad there. And the head of Uber is under fire after calling the murder of a Washington Post columnist a mistake similar to a car crash.
During an interview with the news site Axios, the CEO was pressed about the company's ties to Saudi Arabia, which is Uber's 5th largest shareholder. He was also asked about the CIA's conclusion that the Saudi crown prince ordered the assassination of columnist Jamal Khashoggi.
I think that government said that they made a mistake.
Well, they made a mistake and somebody's dead.
Well, listen, it's a serious mistake. We've made mistakes too, right, with self-driving, and we stopped driving, and we're recovering from that mistake. So I think that people make
Now, the
mistakes.
CEO apologized for the comment after boycott Uber became a trending topic online.
Now to breaking news overseas. More violent protests in Hong Kong today. Police have fired tear gas at pro-democracy demonstrators who blocked roads and rail lines. Schools are closed because of safety concerns.
The escalation in violence follows the shooting of a protester by police. After months of silence, the U.S. State Department is urging both sides to show restraint.
Back here at home, we're dealing with that wintry weather with snow, freezing rain, and bone-chilling cold spreading across several states. On the radar right now, a line of storms stretching from Texas to Maine with 65 million Americans in the path. Some areas are bracing for temperatures dropping to near zero. This morning, winter is arriving early for millions of Americans. More than a month before the season's official start, a fast-moving storm is bringing snow, ice, and rain.
Came a little too soon. I don't have my scraper. I know where my boots are.
Snow fell overnight in New England and upstate New York, where up to a foot is possible in some areas. Behind the storm, another round of Arctic air, with temperatures below zero near Chicago. And freezing temperatures are now expected as far south as the Gulf Coast.
I think no matter what, you will all notice the cold, though. 25, that feels like in Houston, 7 below for Des Moines. And here in New York City, by Wednesday morning, it will feel like 15.
At least 4 deaths have been blamed on the dangerous travel conditions. In Kansas City, an apparent weather-related crash left this car dangling over the edge of a highway.
An unbelievable situation here. Somebody trapped in this car that almost went over the edge.
The driver rescued, escaping with just minor injuries. And a scare at snowy O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, where an American Airlines flight slid off the icy runway while attempting to land.
A lot of us, I mean, there was a number of us around us, we thought we were going to flip. So it was definitely scary.
Those storms have grounded at least 1,500 flights nationwide.
Detroit doctors have taken a drastic step to save someone from the effects of vaping. They performed a double lung transplant on a victim. It's believed to be the first in the country for the effects of a vaping-related lung injury. More than 2,000 people in the U.S. have become sickened after vaping, and 39 have died.
The head of mass transit in the San Francisco Bay Area is apologizing to a rider after an incident involving a breakfast sandwich.
Steve Foster was eating his sandwich last Monday when a transit officer told him riders aren't allowed to eat on platforms. Foster refused to show his ID and was eventually handcuffed. He was cited for eating on the platform and has gotten an apology from the system's general manager.
I'm definitely upset, mad, a little frustrated, still kind of angry about it. I hope that they can start focusing on stuff that actually matters, like people shooting up dope, hopping the BART, people getting stabbed.
Foster admits to cursing at the officer and using homophobic slurs as the situation escalated, and he says he does not accept the apology he received and may take legal action.
Well, coming up, the Veterans Day gift that changed the life of one former Marine.
But first, a family fights for the right to keep their baby on life support, why the hospital disagrees, and what a judge has decided after this.
We turn now to the legal battle over a baby's life in Texas.
Doctors say it's time to end life support for a 9-month-old because she's in pain. But the baby's family is fighting back, and now her future is being decided in court. This morning, a heartbreaking medical dilemma in Dallas.
That's our baby, and we want to give her all the chances there are.
9-month-old Tinsley Lewis has spent her entire life in the hospital with a rare heart condition and lung disease. Now Tinsley's medical team says her condition will never improve, and the treatment keeping her alive is causing her pain. The hospital gave the family 10 days notice required by law and planned to stop the ventilator yesterday. But a judge has now stepped in, issuing a temporary restraining order.
I thought that they was going to pull the plug on my baby. I didn't think that she was going to still be here today, and that's what I'm grateful for.
In a statement, the hospital called the decision gut-wrenching, but said, quote, "We feel it is in her best interest to free her from artificial medical intervention and suffering." This morning, her family says Tinsley deserves a chance to fight.
I finally got what I've been praying for.
If that machine is giving her that smidgen, don't take it away.
The hospital says nearly 20 other hospitals have refused to take Tinsley in as a patient and agreed with the doctor's assessment. The judge has now given the family until November 22nd to find a hospital willing to admit her.
All right, let's check our notifications now, starting with this.
Okay.
Wait for you to see this and all that blur in action. A naked man dancing to "Don't Stop Believing" in this video. So guess what? He is actually a police officer in Conway, Arkansas. That man there now has 30 days off without pay, and after being suspended for bringing, quote, discredit and embarrassment to the force. The nude and apparently drunk performance happened at a nightclub in Little Rock last month. The officer has not commented. Are you surprised by that he hasn't said a word?
I mean, that song does things to people. Don't stop believing that you can get naked in a bar. All right, well, next up, watch this. Baby flamingo learn how to walk. Oh my gosh, it's not even pink yet.
So cute, adorable, learning to walk. Hey, next, cops were startled by a concealed lizard in a suspect's pocket. Watch this.
Not a concealed lizard.
It's like, what do you got in there? Anything will poke me? And then, yeah.
Stop. It's Florida, huh?
And you see what's you see what's happening on the hood right there. That's a bottle of good old brown liquor.
Can you imagine? Is there anything that you want to tell me? I have a lizard in my pocket. I would be like, is that code for anything?
Yeah.
Lizard in my pocket?
Moving on.
I'll get this one, don't worry.
Yeah.
Next, a Veterans Day to remember as a Marine who lost his legs got the gift of a smart home. Check it out.
So incredible. Gary Sinise Foundation. He is the actor from Forrest Gump, who played Lieutenant Dan, and it's Gary Sinise Foundation, And with that, he was able to build him, the foundation was able to build him a smart home. Obviously, that helps him get around because he lost his legs while serving overseas for this country. And he's actually had 4 tours of duty. And now he has that beautiful smart home thanks to the foundation there.
Yeah, just in time for Veterans Day. That was yesterday. Well, next to a snowy day in the Midwest that didn't stop 2 college soccer teams from playing in Michigan.
Detroit Mercy and Milwaukee met in the Horizon League quarterfinals. They played through more than a few snowflakes, with 9 inches falling in some parts of the Motor City. Milwaukee finally broke the ice, scoring the first goal 51 minutes into the match. The Panthers won 2-0. Can't even see the field. It's cold.
I would have saw the first snowflake and be like, all right, time to go home.
Don't even have any long pants on, no long johns. That's just too much.
Watching.
Even the coach said, look, I know about Wisconsin, I know about this weather, but this is a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And with all that snow, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, even in Los Angeles, where the world's tallest live-cut Christmas tree has been lit up.
Take a look at that.
That tree is lit. And it's tall, too. Woo!
It keeps going.
They said it was like 100 feet.
Oh, my gosh. And you thought Trevor was tall.
That's a good one right there. They need to put a blinking light on top of that so
that
helicopters will run into it.
All right, well, and this story I just love. It's a trip to a pet store turned into a reunion for a Florida family. Check it out.
They went to a PetSmart in Jacksonville over the weekend looking to adopt a kitten. Then the dad saw a brown and white dog about to go on a walk. It turns out that dog, named Dopey, belonged to his family. Dopey has been missing since August and was taken in as a stray last month. Dad called out to Dopey, and Dopey ran right to Dad and the family. They are all reunited, and it feels so good.
Dopey's like, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Were
you looking for me?
How'd you guys lose me?
Right.
How'd I end up here?
Did they ever get the cat?
They did not get that cat.
Right. All right, and there's a whole new way to get your food delivered. Some college kids in Houston are now relying on robots to deliver dinner.
And so far, so good. Here's Will Gans.
These robots are all the talk at the University of Houston. There are 30 of them rolling around campus. All students need to do is download an app, put in a form of payment, and these robots will come with food anywhere on campus.
It's so cute. It's like a bigger Roomba that just gives you food.
People actually love the robots. When you see the robot, everybody's like, oh my God, look, everybody's on Snapchat. Everybody got their phone out recording.
He's camera shy.
They're super cute and they're very polite.
It's kind of cool to see that it actually works and it doesn't run into people.
U of H is the first campus in the state of Texas to have its own fleet of autonomous delivery robots here on campus.
Although it seems simple, there's still a learning curve for some students.
Hello, here's your delivery.
It talks? It's like Uber, kind of. You can pick your spot where you want to get it delivered and stuff. And it only took like 20 minutes to get my food.
This is awesome, guys. I heard the fee isn't too high, so.
$1.99?
$1.99, yeah, that's not bad.
The robots travel 4 to 6 miles per hour and maneuver mainly on sidewalks using numerous sensors.
It has a bubble of awareness around the robot, and it won't get too close to anything.
I think it's really cool. Like, at first I was a little skeptical.
It just goes around and it does its little job.
So the robots can cross streets, climb curbs, travel at night, and operate in both rain and snow.
How fast do they go?
4 to 6 miles per hour.
Okay, so they've got, oh, I want some pizza from a drunk college student.
So instead of doing the drunk college student stumble, now the robot can do it for you.
Oh, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Looked like it was a lowrider.
Oh yeah,
hydraulics.
I know. Just like add a little like heavy like
West Coast route.
Exactly.
So many issues can go wrong on with this being on college campus. Like it could get towed.
I mean,
You can get a parking ticket like I did for years.
Yeah.
it could also
All
turn
4
my
years.
freshman 15 into a freshman 50.
Hello.
There
Real
you go.
quick.
Real quick. All right, well, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. But that is our question of the day. Do you want robots delivering your food? Tell us what you think in the comments or tweet us at ABC News Live. Will Gans, what's your answer?
I 100% want some robots delivering my food.
I
Robot
have
food.
an irrational fear of robots taking over, so no thank you.
It should also come with music so we can do the robot.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Hey,
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
There
There it is. Coming up, we'll tell you what to watch out for on this busy Tuesday.
Plus, the emotional moment on last night's Jeopardy that everyone is talking about after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump is scheduled to speak at the Economic Club at New York, participate in a roundtable with supporters, and speak at a fundraising committee reception before returning to Washington.
The Supreme Court will hear arguments on whether the Trump administration's decision to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, is lawful.
Meanwhile, DACA recipients, families, and immigrant justice advocates will hold a Home is Here rally outside the court, and Democrats in Congress will call on the Republican-controlled Senate to pass the Dream and Promise Act to renew support for undocumented immigrants with temporary protected status.
And the Disney Plus streaming service launches today. Customers will be able to receive content from Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, National Geographic, Disney Classics, and new originals. Disney is, of course, the parent company of ABC News. Everyone's kind of losing it online.
I know you are.
I know. Lizzie McGuire?
She's
Come on,
ready.
that's my childhood.
We know what you're doing after It's Morning America. Hey, plus don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories in the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
And finally, the sweet moment on Jeopardy that just tugged at our heartstrings.
It happened last night on Jeopardy's Tournament of Champions during Final Jeopardy. Contestant Drew Gower, instead of writing in his question, did something that took Alex Trebek by surprise.
Drew, you're smiling. I like that. Let's take a look at your response. Did you come up with the right one? No? What is "we love you"? That's very kind. Thank you. Cost you $19.95. You're left with $5. Okay. Let's go to Kyle Jones.
Wow,
now.
you hear the emotion
He
there
wrote
in
something
Trebek's
down.
voice. Gower left with only $5, throwing away his shot at a win, but it was clearly worth it. But again, it looks like he knew that he was not going to win. Emma Betcher there, who hopefully soon will face off with James Holzhauer. She was the high scorer. And he's like, look, I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to send this little message of love and support to Alex Trebek, and it was received, and now it is going viral this morning.
It is. We love you, Alex.
Mhm.
But James Holtzhauer,
Hauer.
still, he's still in there?
That's in the Tournament of Champions.
Oh, I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's the longest streak I've ever seen.
Oh, no.
right.
They're back, and we can't wait to see what happens in this Tournament of Champions. All right, that's it for us. It's been great to have Mona here. Thank you so much.
See you guys in D.C.
Have a good one.